Hello there, everybody. This is Douglas Bloch. Welcome to your Depression Recovery channel here, where each week we talk about practical tools and coping strategies for healing from depression and anxiety. This is my second attempt at a live video chat, and I look forward to sharing my ideas about healing from depression and anxiety, and also to get to know you, the viewers, and answer any questions you might have. So let's go. I like to always start with a joke because humor is really something that really helps folks with depression. I'm going to read something right here. It's from Stanford University, and basically what it says is that when they looked at the brain and told somebody a joke and see what was going on, the region that has been shown to be activated when people take drugs such as cocaine or amphetamines, that lights up when people laugh at a joke. So these findings show that humor inherently is rewarding to the human being. In other words, it says right here from the Stanford study that humor evolved as an innate coping mechanism or natural antidepressant. So there you have it, Stanford University. Humor is a natural antidepressant, so pretty good, huh? So what can I say that might be funny? These are from jokes from the Catskills, where I grew up outside of New York City. The doctor gave a man 6 months to live. The man couldn't pay his bill, so the doctor gave him another 6 months. Second joke. The doctor called Mrs. Cohn saying, "Mrs. Cohn, your check came back." Mrs. Cohn answered, "So did my arthritis." And finally, wow, thank you, Prince Joseph. Prince Joseph says I was about to suicide, and then he watched my video on suicide prevention, and it kept him alive. Well, that is really rewarding to hear, because I have been suicidal so many times myself. I can't tell you how many times I've come close, and without the help of other people reassuring me that I would get well, that things would get better, I would not have held on to the light of day, and I would not be doing the work I'm doing. Scott says, "Hey Doc." Hi Scott, nice to hear from you. Here's my last joke for right now. Doctor says, "You live to be 60. The patient says, "I am 60. The doctor says, "See, what did I tell you?" All right, so more coming on later. I wanted to share with you some of my ideas that I've had about healing from depression recently. In Oregon here, it started to rain, and oh, Patty says, "Hello, Douglas from Ireland." Thank you. Your honesty about suicidal feelings is very helpful to us who've also experienced them. Thank you very much again for sharing that. Let me see if I can adjust the iPad here. I'm a little bit tilted, but that's okay. So in Oregon, it's actually starting to get dark out. We've had our first major rain in 3 months on Monday, and some of my clients are getting rather down because of the lack of light. This is called seasonal affective disorder, and if you suffer from that, and anybody living in the northern hemisphere right now, when it's starting to get dark, we have the first day of autumn coming. Oh, I can't quite read what that says, but TJ says, "Hi Doc." Hi, nice to hear from you. Anyway, so we're having a darkness come upon us right now, and as a result, a lot of people are getting down, and the way to basically get over that is through something called light therapy. There's actually a clinical term for what happens when there's not enough light. It's called seasonal affective disorder, or the acronym is SAD. So I'm going to grab something right now and show it to you that's really kind of makes a difference for me when I'm basically in the funk of a depression caused by lack of light, and it's called a light box. This is actually called a light book. It's made by a company in Canada, Litebook. Let me grab it here. And this is what it looks like. Jobin says hello. Steffa says, "Hi Douglas, it's Jay from Chicago. Nice to see you. Nice to hear from you, actually." So this is what this is. This is a light book. And what you do is you sit this by yourself when you first wake up in the morning and look at it for 20 minutes, where it is about 18 inches from your head, or your eyes actually, because that's where the light is coming in and resetting the brain. And I don't want to blind you guys, but this is what I won't do it directly towards you. Wow, Prince Joseph from India. Hi, I'm from India. Yes, I've heard from you. Leanne, one of my faithful watchers, or actually, yeah, YouTube watchers. Hi there. Nice to hear from you. Scott says, hey doc, for those with a severe depression and mental illness, does it ever truly go away? Isn't that amazing? Hey, another hello from Netherlands. Interesting you should say that, because I'm actually just doing a video shoot tomorrow, and the title of the video is, will these bouts of depression ever end? And the answer to that is no. Now let me qualify that. Depression is a chronic relapsing condition that is always with us, and so we always have the potential to get it again. But if we practice the tools that we talk about in this channel and other really good resources, your depressive episodes, if and when they do come, can be less intense, of shorter duration, and less frequent. So I had a big depressive episode in 1976, a second one in 82, 83, that was 7 years. The next one came in 96, that was 14 years. And my most recent one came in 2015, that's 19 years. So you can see there's a greater and greater time between each depressive episode. Marin W says, hi Douglas, hi from Japan. Marin, I'm glad you can, I have no idea what time it is in Japan right now, but I'm glad you're tuning in. So as I was saying, the capacity for another depressive episode is always exists, especially if you've had multiple ones, but they can be less frequent and less intense. And even if you fall into a really big pit like I did 2 years ago, you just use the tools for recovery, pray, and as I say in my video, one day the universe will have mercy on you and you'll come out of it. I've never worked with a person in 17 years of running depression support groups who did not come out of a depressive illness eventually, if they hung in there. And the only way to hang in there is to have other people well, not the only way, but a really helpful way is, Leanne says, I agree. Yes, it is true that these episodes will be fewer and far between. But when you're in a deep depressive episode, remember to reach out for support. Anna says, hi, I do think it's possible to never have relapse again. I hope so, with lots of therapy and coping skills and meditation. Yeah, you're absolutely right, but every now and then something can knock you on your ass. I mean, I have known people who have had only one depressive episode and have stayed well for 20, 30, 40 years. So you're right. It is possible to have one and only one, but most of the time people have multiple ones. But I hope in your case you never have one again. How did you know you're really on the road to recovery? I'm feeling better, but I'm really worried about relapse. In the journal. I got a little message. I've had a joint pain with depression, says Patty. Yeah, that sometimes happens. I would recommend taking turmeric and basil for that. Dorothy says, what can I do when I'm feeling so scared I can't leave the house? I don't know what to do. Glasgow, UK. So the answer to the other question about how do you know when you're in recovery, you know when you're in recovery when you get up in the morning and you ask yourself, what is my mood on a 1 to 10 scale? And it's a 5 or above. In other words, you're feeling more better than not, and that goes on for 2 weeks. If you can have 2 straight weeks where you're feeling decent or not bad, that means you're in recovery. Now, to the person who said, I'm scared, I can't go out of the house, I would call a crisis line, get some support, and get to see a good psychiatrist and psychologist, therapist, and get some treatment, because you probably have agoraphobia or extreme anxiety. These are really, really difficult things to overcome. We had a gal who couldn't come to my group for 3 months. She was so scared to leave the house, but eventually she got better. So it's really, really bad when the anxiety prevents you from, you're so scared and you feel so vulnerable you can't even go anywhere and do anything. But it is treatable and it will go away eventually if you get the right kind of help. Meditation works wonders for me, says Leanne. Yeah, that is something that's become more and more studied. It does calm the nervous system. What do you think is the best way to deal with stress, says Juliet? Exercise, get on your bike and ride. When I get to the top of Rocky Butte and I'm out of breath and my heart rate is 151 beats per second, I'd be dead, wouldn't I? 151 beats per minute. I'm too exhausted to be funky. As a matter of fact, my brain clears out and I feel well. So exercise is always the best way to deal with stress every time. Other ways to do it are deep breathing, listening to relaxing music. Hey, my friend Noah, how do you get a depressed person to take better care of themselves? Wow, that's an amazing question. Thank you, Noah. My good buddy who has a fantastic YouTube channel and is doing these live chats every couple of days. Self-care is the key. We have to be our own therapists, our own coaches, our own mental health recovery experts. And how does that happen? Well, you have to instill in the person a sense of motivation, hope that things can get better. And again, it's support. In our support groups, we have buddies checking into each other every week. So if somebody is lying in bed and can't get out, his or her buddy will say, "Come on, get up. I'll even come over and we'll take you out to breakfast." But it's really, really essential that you find the motivation within yourself, or it gets instilled by your therapist, or you have other people to connect with you to support you in that self-care, in taking care of yourself. That is the one thing, as Noah said, that is so critical. We have to use these tools of recovery to care for ourselves and to love ourselves. And of course, when people are depressed, what happens? They don't love themselves. Leanne says, "I truly believe to get better, you got to put the work in doing. Nothing's going to change." Yeah. How do you get things when you're depressed done? That's really hard. When you're depressed, you have no motivation, you have no energy, so it's very hard to do anything. This is where drug therapy can help. The right drug can give you the motivation. Also, if you can even get out and walk around the block, if you can just force yourself out of the house, that is a good thing. One of the members of my group last night said, I was so tired and exhausted, I wanted to go to my computer class because she's retraining herself to be a computer programmer, and I just didn't want to go, but I made myself go. And when I got there, I was so glad I did. So sometimes it's like an act of will, but again, will is often gone when you're depressed. So it's catch-22. That's what makes depression so debilitating. Because, Gavin says, "What do you do when your depression and anxiety are making you so physically ill you can't seem to get good help in doctors?" Well, if you have the physical illness with the depression and anxiety, first thing you need to do is get it checked out by a medical doctor and see if in fact there are medical things going on besides the depression. I mean, if you've got the flu and depression, you got to treat the flu. But again, sometimes the physical illness is a function of aches, body aches and pains. Sassy says, "Do you know if there are any other resources, different ways to," right here, "any other ways to use docs and Fisher-Wallace machine? I'm also looking to reduce my anxiety while on the Fisher-Wallace." I don't know what the Fisher-Wallace machine is. If you could tell me, I will Google it, when I'm done with this video chat. I don't want to do it now because, obviously I don't want to distract myself from you guys. But if anyone knows what the Fisher-Wallace machine is, let me know. But it would be good to look that up as an alternative therapy. There are many, many alternative ways of treating depression besides antidepressants, which is the treatment of choice for psychiatrists and most doctors. But as I write about, someone says, "Sassy Susie, I will follow up with you. Thanks for doing that." By the way, my email address is douglasbloch@gmail.com. Oh, thank you, April. Oh, April says, "I'm great at what I do. What do you recommend for relaxation for better sleep besides medication?" What I do is I play relaxing music, falling to bed. There's a wonderful song called "Angel Love," an instrumental I've had for 20 years. Oh, Fisher-Wallace is an ECT machine, says Matt. Well, hi from Egypt. Well, I'd never heard of anybody doing ECT on themselves. I usually have to go to a doctor to get that done. So that's really, really important. Let me show you something right here if I have it. So if anybody want to write me, here it is, douglasbloch@gmail.com. It looks backwards from where I'm standing. I hope you can read it, but please write to me anytime you want to. I also offer personal coaching. If you go to my website, healingfromdepression.com, I have a 12-week mental health recovery program that's very inexpensive that uses my book, and it's really cool. So Rayota says, "I've suffered severe panic attack anxiety for 7 years." Panic disorder is a really, really tough thing to do. It can be healed. You need to find a doctor who specializes in panic disorder. Your average psychiatrist doesn't really know about it very much, but there are psychologists, especially one here in Portland, that's all he works with. So find someone who works with that. It's a combination of medication and cognitive therapy and exercise that can help you get your anxiety under control. I have a wonderful video I just did called "How to Rewire Your Anxious Brain." I have a lot of good information there. Subconscious anxiety depressing me so ill. medication may not be helping this. Says this. I think you should take Rogaine for your receding hairline. Yeah, that's great. I did Rogaine. That's been around for years. My hairdresser says, yeah, if that shit worked, everybody would be using it. But never, you never know. I'll give it a try. Thank you for your suggestion. By the way, my father was totally bored at my age, bald, so I'm not doing too bad. My husband finds that when he eats, that calms him down. Well, whatever it takes to calm yourself down, a great thing. So do whatever works. Let me see. Do I have another joke here? Does anybody like puns here? What does it says? I stayed up all night to see where the sun went, and then it dawned on me. Hey, I'm reading a book about anti-gravity. I can't put it down. Any experience with BPD? It's so much worse than my depression. Oh yeah, borderline personality disorder. That is tough. I recommend one thing and one thing majorly, and that is dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT. That was created by Marsha Linehan right up here in Seattle in the Northwest to help DBT. It's the only thing that's really been shown to work. Could you please give us an idea about OCD, obsessive compulsive personality? There is a very good medication called Luvox, Luvox, that has helped a lot of my OCD clients. It's an antidepressant, and also there's a book called Brain Lock by Jeffrey Schwartz. If you send me an email at douglasbloch@gmail.com, I'll send you the link to that. By the way, you may notice something in the right-hand bottom of your corner of your screen called Snapchat. It's a little, I think, red box with a dollar sign. That's something that YouTube just created that allows people to support this channel through small contributions if you want to, because this is an act of love and service. I actually pay video people to put these videos up for me, and unless you're like a really big YouTube celebrity, you don't make a heck of a lot of money. So if you want to contribute, that would be great. It also gets your name to the top of the list so I can see it immediately. But just click on that button, it'll tell you what to do. Do I have a Patreon page to Sassy Susie? I'm going to create one with the help of my friend Noah. Yes, thank you for asking. I've been meaning to do that. Okay, let me scroll up here. My depressed girlfriend asked for space to have a break from a relationship, so I told her to consider me your best friend. Rough times, any advice? Yes, I have a really good video called When Someone You Love is Depressed. This is really, really a good video to help your depressed friend. The most important thing you can do is encourage them to go to treatment and tell them they're going to come out of it and they're going to be okay, and that you're there for them anytime they need you. I have another video called The Best Things to Say to Someone Who's Depressed, but the essence is encourage them to get treatment and tell them they will be okay. Okay, what other things do we have here? I realize that masturbation had a negative impact on my life and moods. I tell people to stop masturbating. It makes a depressed person not very well. When people are depressed, right, they want to feel better, and so one of the ways they do that is through changing their mood, like through alcohol or marijuana or cocaine or sex addiction or masturbation. So it's really, really a way to temporarily help yourself feel better. But the problem is none of these things work long term. And I have, of course, a number of people in my depression support groups who are in recovery from alcohol, from marijuana, from cocaine. Sigmund Freud even wrote a great article. Actually, it was a monograph, on cocaine. He thought it was the cure for depression. When he first tried cocaine, he felt so good he couldn't believe it. Hard to find a DBT therapist. It's like they shunned this illness so far. Well, there are programs, DBT programs. We have two of them in Portland, one at Providence Hospital and one at the DBT Center. So Leanne, go look around wherever you live and see if there's an actual program. They do exist. It's a 6-month program and you can get in pretty easily. Having a weak connection. Did you reply to my comment? Tell me what the comment was again, and I will reply to it, I promise. Yeah, Leanne, go look for a DBT group in your area. Call your local mental health agency. Call hospitals. Okay, about OCP, yes, I actually did. Is that obsessive compulsive personality? I did answer that question, but I'll answer it again. Two things. One is a book called Brain Lock by Jeffrey Schwartz. You can get it on Amazon. And the other one is a medication called Luvox, Luvox. Hold on for 1 second.
Jennifer
Okay, so about that when I'm putting one of my clients, I'm on emergency call all the time. Have you ever read Anatomy of an Academic by Robert Whitaker? What do you think of the paradoxical effects of many psychiatric applications? And let me see who that was. I'm supposed to. Kate. Hey, not only have I read that book, I know Robert Whitaker, and I write for his website, Mad in America. It's really interesting. You should bring that up because I'm about to basically do a video script called. I won't give it all away, but it's called A Deadly Side Effect of Antidepressants. And that is the fact that some of these antidepressants, when you can take them, can have paradoxical reactions. Yes, they are definitely a double-edged sword. And Robert Whitaker in Anatomy of an Academic says that antidepressants are overprescribed. And yeah, they are overprescribed, but they do have their place. Someone asked about, let me see here. Wow, a lot of questions. Sisyphus says, how do you recommend balanced hope for the future with real realities about your current life? Well, you have to acknowledge where you are and be realistic about how to treat your depression, but know that things can get better. As a matter of fact, 2 years ago, I thought my life was over because I was in a deep depression. Now I think I'm doing the work that I'm supposed to do more than ever. So realize where you are, get other people's feedback, especially if you have, manic depression and you don't have a good understanding of your, own situation, but always realize that things can and do improve. Can you please explain something about selective mutism? Says Philip, I don't really know about selective. I'm sorry about that. Maybe you could say something about that to me. Honestly, do you feel? Let me see over here if I can get this question again because they're all coming in. Honestly, do you feel that people who suffer from anxiety, depression, panic attacks are victims of vaccination complications? No, I don't really think that. I know there's been a theory about that, but I've never never really seen any real scientific proof. Someone says they want off Effexor, they're going to email me. Go for it. I've just seen someone come off Effexor recently, so I can definitely give you some advice on that. Again, my email address is douglasbloch@gmail.com. Let me see again if I can see some more questions here by scrolling up the screen. Do you think that a hypersensitive person that hypnotized by Dr. Elaine Aron is legit? There's actually a book called A Highly Sensitive Person by, what is Effexor? It's an antidepressant. But yeah, so yes, I've read the book A Highly Sensitive Person. I am one such person. And in fact, I think Elaine Aron's book is completely legitimate. I remember when I came out of the crib when I was a couple of weeks old, my mother slammed the door to the nursery and I jumped halfway out. I've always been sensitive to loud sounds, touch, and people who are autistic are very sensitive to touch and loud sounds. They say that they cause memory loss. There's no concrete evidence of memory loss from benzos. No, I've been on plenty of benzos. Oh my God, all the way back to stuff you don't even remember. And it hasn't affected my memories. Specifically, I want to also say that I had electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, and one of the reasons I almost didn't do it is because there were all these things on the internet about memory loss. Well, my memory is actually better than it was before the ECT. I did have some short-term memory loss at the time that I was in the hospital. Some people came and visited me. I don't remember them. But other than that, everything before and after the ECT treatment, I remember perfectly. And in fact, now that I'm no longer depressed, any meds for panic disorder, says Ryudu. Yeah, panic disorder, the benzodiazepines using short-term, Klonopin, Ativan, Xanax, they can be used short-term. Also, some of the antidepressants like Paxil can be used for anxiety. Again, you need to be seeing a prescriber for this. Also, I find that relaxing warm baths is very helpful. Marin says you recommend the book A Man's Search for Meaning. Yes, that's an amazing book by Viktor Frankl, written in the concentration camps. I looked it up the other day. The problem is I find it's really hard to read because my depression is bad. How do you cope with hopelessness? First of all, you can get books on tape if it's difficult to read. And how do you cope with hopelessness? By telling yourself to live one day at a time. and that you don't really know. If you get too far ahead of yourself, if you think, oh my God, I can't live like this forever, how will I cope? By asking that question, by thinking about the future, you've already put yourself in a hopeless state. What you need to do is say, okay, it's 11 a.m. in Portland. I'm feeling 11:30 a.m. in Portland. I'm feeling crappy. How do I get through the rest of the day? What coping tools can I use? And try to stay in the present tense as much as you can, because that's the only reality there is. So if you think too much about your negative potential outcome, you are going to feel hopeless. So try as best you can to stay in the here and now and find things even in the moment that give you even a little bit of pleasure, like I don't know, calling a friend, or even having a little bit of chocolate. But hopelessness is a very, very devastating aspect of depression. Sassy Susie says, water plants. Yeah, that's a nice thing to do. I'm getting a new plant for my bedroom. But yeah, hopelessness is the number one. Pet your cat, pet your dog, says Sassy Susie. Yeah. I have a couple of videos on how pets can help people heal from depression. And I have a cat named Bruce, which I should bring to one of my future live chats. You'll love him. But yeah, having a pet, a connection to another sentient being, is powerful. Clean the house, says Leanne. Yeah. Anything you can do to get moving will help. But getting back to Marin's question about hopelessness, the number one cause of suicide is not pain, but the hopelessness that it will never get better. You see, if I knew, it may seem small, but it gets you through moment to moment, says Sassy Susie. Absolutely. See, if I'm depressed and someone says, you're going to be in horrible, miserable pain, but on October 27th at 10:45 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, it will be over, you can hold on because you know there's an end. But when you're hopeless, you don't think it's ever going to end, and that's what triggers suicidal thinking more than anything. I know that from my own experience. I know that from the experience of my clients. So hopelessness is really, a horrible state to be in, and you have to find ways to deal with that whatever way you can. And the way that I've dealt with it is by trying to, again, focus on the here and now, in the current moment, and to use the affirmation, which I repeat over and over in my videos, this too shall pass. Think about it. The only constant in the universe is change. The only thing we know about in the universe that will is that things will never be the same, or will not stay the same. In the Buddhism, they call it impermanence. Whatever arises and abides for a time fades away. I'm just wondering if this is a symptom of anxiety. Says Katie, I've always tensed my stomach when stressed. Now I have stomach pains. Yeah. Looks like a pretty painting on there. That was my goddaughter drew that when she was 6 years old for me. Yeah, definitely. Leanne says the butterfly goes into a period of darkness before it grows its wings and flies. Hey, thanks. That's absolutely true. Tension in the stomach right here. Yeah, that is definitely a stress response that comes from anxiety. So deep diaphragmatic breathing and is really, really a good way to relax the stomach. Yoga, massage. Let me see if I can find another good pun here. Someone says they like puns. I once did a theatrical performance about puns. It was a play on words. Depression, the biggest collection of videos on YouTube looking at it from all angles, is in the something part of the channel, someone says. Let me see what I can see here on this list. It's in the playlist part of my channel and folders. Hope they're useful to people. Okay. Thank you, Chess Marble 2. Appreciate that. Yeah. I put on a play about puns. It was a play on words. It's kind of cute. What do you do when family doesn't understand your illness? Oh, yeah. Leanne, thank you. That is really tough. Well, you have to only be around. What are your thoughts on medical Mary Jane? It's legal in Nevada. It doesn't help me much, but it helps others a lot. Absolutely. A lot of my clients use marijuana to get to sleep. It makes me kind of agitated, but or not agitated, kind of hyper, but it does relax some people, and it can be very helpful. Now, let's get back to the family question that was asked. I found that my parents did not know what the hell was going on with me during my first depression in 75, 76. Sometimes my friends did. When I was suicidal, a lot of my male friends just checked out. They couldn't handle it. So you need to surround yourself with people who do understand. And one of the best ways to do that is going to a support group. That's why I run them. Check out support groups in your area. National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, you can call up their main number and find out what's there. So support groups, friends who understand, a good therapist, a psychiatrist, a church pastor or minister or rabbi, anybody who gets it. or just go onto YouTube and watch videos like mine and Noah's and all the wonderful resources out there that will tell you you're not alone. Tommy M says, I've got eyesight problems that have sent me into a major depression plus anxiety. Do you think, let me see if I can read this. There's so many questions coming in. Do you think depression and anxiety can affect your vision on top of my existing problems that I have? I've never heard of depression and anxiety affecting vision, but I do know that when you have a physical illness or an ailment, like a vision problem, it will make the depression and anxiety worse. That's like a double whammy. Having a physical health problem, my poor therapist, Ann Zimmerman, who I dedicate my book, Healing from Depression, to, had major depression and something called fibromyalgia. It was too much for her. Speaking of books, my memoir about my depression in 1997 was called When Going Through Hell Don't Stop. Here it is right here. And I have this on ebook format, and I'd like to share it with some of you. No charge. It's usually only $2.99, but the first 10 people who write to me and request a copy of When Going Through Hell Don't Stop, I'll send you a free ebook. It really tells how I got through the episode, with how I hung on, and the miracle that got me well. Again, my email address right here, for those of you who are visual learners, is douglasblog@gmail.com. Oh, someone says, Patty, great book. I needed it at my worst. Leanne says, I think I should forgive my sister for not calling or visiting me. Oh, definitely. I mean, people get scared about being around with people with mental illness. They think they're going to catch it. It's the last great stigma in modern medicine. Do you know that each year 42,000 people take their own lives, one every 12 minutes in America? Do you also know that breast cancer kills 35,000? That's Doug High says, Eunice, you often say these videos that we should see ourselves in nearby future where we will be able to domain our mental health. Yeah, definitely. See yourself as being able to, why is this little box here? Yeah, being able to cope with it in the future. But, okay, so suicide kills more people than breast cancer, and yet when you basically have 10,000 people coming to the Walk for the Cure in breast cancer in Portland, and only 200 coming for the Walk Against Suicide in the same month. What is wrong with this? This is a 50-to-1 ratio of breast cancer to suicide. Christy says, I don't know where to start. Christy, go ahead and find a good counselor that specializes in depression in your area. That's the first place to start. Also, go to the many good websites. You can go to mindhealingfromdepression.com and get some support and information, but find someone to work with. So, why are there 50 times more people walking for breast cancer than suicide? Because it's a big taboo. I mean, cancer needs all the support it can get. I'm so glad that people are walking and raising money for breast cancer. One of my best women friends died of breast cancer, but also my roommate committed suicide. My therapist committed suicide. My good friend from high school, and on the list goes. So, yes, Sassy, you did make it as one of the first 10. So, people just don't want to talk about it because it's so dark, but we have to talk about it. Eunice says, but what if we simply can't? I've been in this state for quite a long time, and there's something inside of me pushing me down, and it doesn't allow me to imagine all of that. Eunice, I recommend doing something called a vision statement of wellness. If you email me at douglasblog@gmail.com, I'll send you a free guide about how to create it. Blue Moon says, my so-called family doesn't care either. Yeah, well, I don't know if it's they don't care, they just don't know what to do. But a vision statement of wellness is one of the most powerful tools that I use to help people heal from a depression and anxiety. You basically imagine what your life would look like if you were free and well, and you don't even have to believe it. You just have to want it. So, if you just say something like this, I am well and healed, free from anxiety and depression, and you post that on your walls and visualize it as much as you can, even if you don't really believe it, just having it out there. Sassy Susan says they're afraid. Yep. Blue Moon, thank you, Blue Moon, for saying I'm awesome. But a vision of wellness is where it starts. Well, if your family doesn't care, Christy, you can be happy anyway, and maybe they will care once you feel better. But trying to put out there what you want, even if you don't believe it's possible, is the first step in healing from depression and having somebody else to hold that vision with you. Depression can be so discouraging. You can just feel like there's no hope. I mean, I don't know. I mean, 4 times in my life I've had these episodes. 5 times I've been hospitalized. I mean, I have been to hell and back, as I know many of you have. You know, I mean, how many people have been to hell and back? How many people, I mean, how many people suffer from depression in America? 1 in 8. What is that? 35 million people, right? I mean, it is, again, it's underdiagnosed, undertreated, undertalked about. That's why Noah and I are doing our channels, because we need to get the word out that depression is treatable, that there's nothing to be afraid of and nothing to be stigmatized about it, and especially suicide. Kirsty says, thank you for sharing your life. I really do appreciate it. Well, you know, Elie Wiesel said he is, I kind of learned to accept that one get better from BPT, says Leanne. I don't think so. Go get Marsha Linehan's book on Amazon.com about strategies. If you send me your an email, Leanne, I will send you a link to this book. But a great Holocaust survivor named Elie Wiesel, who won the Nobel Prize for Peace, said at the beginning of his book, Night, anybody who has been through an ordeal is required to tell their story. So I went through an ordeal, Noah went through an ordeal. When you go to hell and back, you need to share your life. That's part of the reason you went through that, so you can be an example of how to get through it. Rayodu says, how can I get support in anyone? Okay, I'm just trying to read that. How can I get support with anyone in this group? Can anyone share an email? Okay, with you or with me? I'm not quite sure. I guess he wants someone to put an email address up on the question, so he can email them and connect with them. That's a very good idea. Can you make a group for us? Called Kirsty. Well, I have thought of making an online group for a while. Send me an email and I'll see what I can do. And Blue Moon just sent me her email. Great. It'd be interesting to do an online support group. Of course, you'd have to have everybody there at the same time, which would be kind of, difficult. I guess you could send everybody an email saying, be at your computer. There are probably some technology to make this happen. Maybe I can look it up and figure out how to get everybody on the same page at the same time. Maybe there's some audio software so we could all be on the phone with each other. That's what I would prefer. I'm an auditory person, and I've worked on the phone many times in my life. I used to have a radio show. According to Leanne, Facebook has a lot of support groups. Well, there you have it. Leanne, what do you do? Go on Facebook and put depression support groups? How do you look that up? I'm not a Facebook person, but some of my clients definitely have spent a lot of their time on Facebook getting support. Yeah, Leanne, send me some information about how to connect with support groups on Facebook. Yeah, Kirsty says, I get more depressed on Facebook. That's easy. Blue Moon, we would not be isolated if we suffer from physical illness. So thank you for giving us time and help and hope. Yeah, I mean, okay, I got to give you guys an example. This is very powerful. Sorry if I don't answer your questions immediately. Yes, diet can play a role in helping yourself. Definitely. Too much sugar will make your moods go up and down. So we had a member of our support group who was hearing voices, psychoses, as well as being depressed. It's called Depression with Psychotic Features, and she was a nurse, and she could not tell the people she worked with, her colleagues, that she was hearing voices. One day, big no put me on to you, says Anthony. Go get guys. Yeah, well, great. So anyway, so this woman was hearing voices. She couldn't tell her colleagues, and one day she comes in, and for the first time in 6 months, there's a smile on her face. And I say, Carol, what happened? What did you do? Did you find the right antidepressant? Did you fall in love? And she says, no, I have cancer. And the group said, what? Can you say that again? What do you mean you have cancer? Yeah, I got diagnosed with cancer, and I came and I told my colleagues, and everybody gave me kisses and chocolates and balloons. I've never felt so much support in my life when I told them I had cancer. But if I had told them I was hearing voices, they would all run to the other side of the room, and they would basically fire me. But what's the difference between cancer and psychosis? Psychosis is a disease of the brain. Cancer is a disease of cells that multiply too rapidly. They're both diseases of the body. They're both physiological. Why should one get support? Why should the other not? If you're hospitalized for pneumonia for a week, you can tell your boss. If you had a breakdown and you were in the hospital, you can't. Leanne says, just put in my depression support groups, etc. I agree it can make you feel more depressed hearing stories. I had to get off at Facebook because it's kind of getting nuts. Haha. Well, here's the deal. In my support groups, we don't just bring each other down by talking about how miserable we are. We talk about strategies to make ourselves feel better, and we talk about goals. Percy says Facebook will make you nuts, seeing your friends happy. Yeah, so don't do anything to trigger yourself. But getting back to my point about why is depression stigmatized? Why is mental illness stigmatized when physical illness is not? Again, you have pneumonia, it's okay to take off from work. You're having anxiety and panic and you can't make it into work and you tell your boss, you better watch out. You have to be very, very careful. I have a doctor friend, he's a member of the group. He had a breakdown. He had to go to the Menninger Clinic, the world famous Menninger Clinic, and get ECT. Do you know how hard it was for him to get back to work when people learn that? So this is unfair. This is not right that a brain disorder should be treated differently than a disorder of the heart or the liver or the kidneys. No way. And we have to basically put a stop to that by coming out, sharing our stories, lobbying our congressman. Fortunately, Eunice says when you commit suicide, everyone thinks that's your fault and your decision. This is the reason. Let me finish reading this comment. And this is the reason why they think no one should spend resources to prevent them. Well, it's not a person's fault when they're suicidal. Their brain is so dysregulated, it tricks them into thinking they'll never get better. So again, there's blaming the victim. Kirsty says faking it never helps for me. Well, okay. What's your opinion on faking it until you make it, says Juan. Well, that's what they say in AA, and that means you have to kind of pretend or believe that you're feeling better, even if you're not. And that's sometimes it can be done, but I know that that is said in AA, and sometimes you have to what's called act as if. There's actually a book called Act as If that talks about that. So let me see. Let's say I'm really anxious and I don't think I can get to work, and I'll just say to myself, well, I can handle it. I'm calm, and you basically just kind of force yourself. But faking to making it never has really worked for me. But I would look it up. I would look that up on the internet and see other people's stories. When I feel like a piece of shit, I feel like a piece of shit, and the only thing I can do is reach out to a friend or reach into my toolbox. Again, exercise, number one thing for me to get out of a bad mood. Even if I get on my elliptical for 15 minutes, I can feel a physical shift. Leanne says I stopped drinking. We have a guy in our support group who's been clean and sober for 10 days, and you should see the difference between him now and then. Someone says, big money maker says exercise the key. Yeah, absolutely. He's clear, he's focused, he's positive. Not a single negative word came out of him last night after being not doing alcohol. So it's really understandable. I mean, look at all the great artists and writers who were depressed. Tennessee Williams and all the Southern writers and Ernest Hemingway, they're all alcoholics, right? So, for some people it makes them more creative, and certainly they turn to it when they're feeling bad. But for someone who has the clinical diagnosis of major depression or generalized anxiety disorder, going ahead and using drugs and chemicals, again, short-term gain, long-term pain. So let me see if I can answer anybody else's question. Again, you can use Snapchat if you want to support the station. Okay, Kata says, I have a personal question. Do you take any medication? Oh my God, you guys are psychic. I'm about to make another video on that. I do take Wellbutrin, 300 milligrams a day, and Lamictal, 37.5 milligrams. Wellbutrin is an antidepressant. Lamictal is a mood stabilizer. My diagnosis is bipolar 2, which means I get hypomanic, but not majorly manic. In the last other 3 episodes, I got better without drugs. And on this one, I got better because I did ECT, but I got put on drugs afterwards by my nurse practitioner. He doesn't want me to go off them because he says they may be keeping me better and I may not know it. Because I've had so many depressive episodes, I'm likely to have another one. So stay on Wellbutrin as insurance. I'm doing that now. I don't think it's really helping, but it's not giving me any side effects, and I trust my nurse practitioner to Do you think that psychiatrists diagnose people too quickly? Absolutely. It takes a couple of sessions before you know what's really going on with somebody at least. But yes, I take the Wellbutrin because a person I respect tells me to keep taking it. It doesn't create any negative side effects, and it may be helping me from going into relapse. I don't know, but I do take hypomanic. I've never been to a therapist. I'm on a dose. I'm depressed and scared it would affect my profession. Well, no, because you can get diagnosed. It's confidential. If you go see a psychiatrist and let me see who said that because I want to acknowledge your name if I can go find this thing on here. I can't find who said that, but anyway, whoever said they were a nurse. Anyway, I can't find the name again, but Kirsty says this. I'm scared it would affect my profession. Not really, because when you get a diagnosis, it's confidential. The psychiatrist can't tell anybody what your diagnosis is, so it will not affect your nursing profession. Now I'm a writer, and all writers are depressed, so it doesn't affect my profession at all, right? I'm supposed to be depressed. That's what Kurt Vonnegut told me, the great author, when he came to Portland. The number one qualification for being a writer, he said, is be a depressive. Hi, Douglas. You emailed me some time ago, but I did not reply. I was in a bad place. So nice to see you on. Thank you, John. Oh, John Cameron from England. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Let me see. April says I was on Wellbutrin for a couple of months, 2002. Didn't make me like it make me feel. So I'm taking Paxil and Cymbalta. I was much better after taking Paxil at the same time. Cymbalta is much better now. See, antidepressants. I mean, this is like crapshoot when you do antidepressants, right? Even the psychiatrist, one of the best psychiatrists in Portland many years ago, John Anderson, said, "You're all a bunch of guinea pigs." He said, "You're all a bunch of guinea pigs." I mean, do you think the psychiatrist really knows what antidepressant is going to be best when he gives it to you? Now, there is a thing I'm just getting involved with called GeneSight, GeneSight. It's a company that if you take a swab of saliva from your cheek and mail it into them, they can tell you what the metabolic pathways are in your brain and what antidepressants work the best. I'm going to have these results on September 28th, 2017, which is about, what is today, the 20th? 8 days. When I get them from my nurse practitioner, I'm going to make a video, or better yet, do a live chat and tell you what my response is, or what their response is, and telling me what antidepressants work the best for me. So maybe we can get some science, to help us figure it out. But right now, no psychiatrist knows how an antidepressant is going to work until you take it. Leanne says, do you believe in psychological addiction from benzos? Absolutely. John Cameron says, can you say the website address? Which website address? Mine is healingfromdepression.com, but if you need another one, let me know. So let me get back to the question so I can answer it again. I was in the middle of it and I took another one. Yes, psychological addiction from benzodiazepines, absolutely. GeneSight is simply GeneSight. Put that in and you get their website. Gene is in gene, sight is in side of your eyes. But yes, psychological addiction to benzos, definitely. Health check was fine, utterly physically ill, because of subconscious anxiety. Well, there are any advice? So physically ill. Intense anxiety and depression can create physical symptoms and all sorts of physical symptoms. So, I think, Gavin, you and I have corresponded. I hope you do coaching with me if you can. But ECT, and when a person's in that bad a shape, is the go-to treatment of choice because it's about 80% effective despite all the controversy around it. The only negative comments I get from my 200 videos that I've done is one of the ones I've done on ECT because there's so much misunderstanding. But I personally have seen my mother get saved from it. And I'd say by this time it's about 12 or 13 of my clients plus myself. All of them have gotten help, 100% success rate. I mean, that's kind of weird to say that. And I'm sure there are people who don't get success. Actually, one of my clients did it in San Diego and it wasn't helpful. So there you have it. But 80% is a hell of a lot better than antidepressants, which are 45 to 50%. And for someone who has treatment-resistant depression like I do, it's 0%. Eunice says, got to go, love you, can't wait to watch the full video, thank you. Thank you, Eunice. I take it you're somewhere from the Mideast anyway. Actually, we're into 49 minutes and 48 seconds of this. I gave it an hour for today. And so we have about another 11 minutes. Again, if any of you have any other questions, I'll give you my email address one more time. Over here, douglasbloch@gmail.com, or better yet, just when this is posted in the next hour or two on my YouTube channel, rather than emailing me, because I get like tons and tons of emails from all these organizations I give money to. Just post your questions in the comments section when this video is uploaded by YouTube as a video on my channel. I don't know how long it takes them to do it. Probably sometime today, Wednesday. Any questions or comments or clarifications there. Thank you, Leanne, for the positive comment. I enjoy corresponding with you and answering your comments on my channel. Marin says there have been some changes, negative changes for the worst. So I got discouraged. How can I believe change for the better will happen? You just have to keep persisting. There's a quote which is sort of not totally germane to this, but Zig Ziglar, a motivational speaker, said, "A big shot is just a little shot who kept on shooting." Eventually, things got to shift, Marin. I mean, what did George Harrison say? All things must pass. I mean, he didn't say that, but he made a great album called that. The darkness eventually has to give way. I mean, what can I tell you? It's just the law of how do you prevent suicidal thoughts, says Kirsty. Yeah, right. You have to. What's your opinion about Abraham Hinks? I think he's a very good channel, and I have a lot of friends who are really involved in him. Preventing suicidal thoughts, they can be intrusive. The thing to do is what happens when you get them. And the thing is to say to them, cancel. I can get better. Do you believe in the Holmes-Rahe scale for physical illness from depression? I don't only believe in it. It's my friends up at the University of Washington. I completely use it. If you get my book, Healing from Depression, from myself or Amazon, or just get it from the library, you'll see I have that scale there on my chapter on stress reduction. It basically says if you have a certain amount of stress in your life over a year period, over 300 points, where death of a spouse is 100, divorce is like 90, you have a lot of stresses over a year, you're more likely to get physically ill. That's absolutely true. I believe in that scale. But getting back to the suicidal thoughts question, cancel. Things can get better. I can get through this. And again, suicidal thoughts often happen when you're thinking about your prospects of the future. I have a sidebar in my book called Back to the Present. If anybody wants to email me, I will send that to them. It's what I do to stop suicidal thinking and to basically shift it before it gets out of hand. But the most pain I've ever been in, and I've been, I've had abscess teeth. I haven't been in like really bad physical pain like some people, so I can't really like chronic back pain. But by far the worst pain I've been in more than any physical pain I've ever been in, has been suicidal pain. There is nothing worse than feeling suicidal and feeling like, what else can drive a person to go against nature? I mean, we have a survival instinct, right? When I was depressed in Berkeley in '77, my friend pushed me in front of a car, and I jumped out, and I said, "What did you do that for?" He said, "See, you do want to live. You do have a survival instinct." Of course I do. But hopelessness and suicidal thinking overrides that, and makes you very, very at risk. And again, there's a very famous article in New Yorker called Jumpers. You should really look it up, where they interview people who had survived jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. Very few of them do, of course, but one person said, as he went over the railing and realized, it was too late, he said, everything that I thought was unfixable in my life, I realized was fixable. Fortunately, he survived and got to fix his life, and now goes around the country talking about, suicidal prevention. You just have to tell yourself that that things can get better. And for me, what helped for me is I say, well, I got out of my last depression and the one before that. The odds are I'll get out of this one too. But you got to have allies. You got to have people to call. Everybody has a local crisis line you can call when you're desperate. So even if you don't have a friend or a family member, just call up the number 1-800 suicide is a national hotline in America. staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I think it's 1-800-273-8255 is the number. 1-800-273-8255. Anybody who is hearing this from the United States of America, if you're feeling desperate and there's no hope, call that number and someone will talk to you as long as you need to. I have a lot of videos on suicide depression on my website. There's one at, God, I wish I had it right in front of me. It's the best suicide prevention site. I'll have it next time when I do this live chat. They've had about 5 million visitors with good reason. It saved my life in 1996 when I came to it. Let me see if there's anybody I still need to get. We've got about, 5 minutes left. April says, thank you so much for a live session, Douglas. Enjoyed every moment. You help a lot of people. Thank you, April. Can you repeat the med for panic disorder and anxiety? Kirsty, I'll check my email after I get off the phone. For panic disorder and anxiety, there's one class of drug called the benzodiazepines, Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, Ativan, and Mr. B says, thank you for your videos, going through some hard times, right new to financial hardships. Yeah, finance can definitely trigger depression. Anyway, so those benzos can help for short-term relief of panic and anxiety. The antidepressants that help for long-term can be Paxil, Prozac, Zoloft, although they're a double-edged sword because they can make you feel more anxious. That's the risk in taking those. And of course, deep breathing, exercise. And one more thing I haven't mentioned that came from DBT. And by the way, Leanne, if you're still watching this, find a DBT program in your area. They do exist. Put your face, this sounds weird, but put your face in a sink of cold water and hold your breath while your face is in water. It activates something called the dive response, DIV, which divers have when they dive underwater. And somehow the act of holding your breath underwater seems to stimulate something called the relaxation response, which basically slows your heart rate and slows down your breathing and gets you relaxed. The other thing to do is to jump in a cold shower if you can handle it. Hey, is everybody seeing these alerts that are coming on the top of the screen? I'm sorry if they're basically they're distracting, but I have to turn them off next time. April says, right there with you, Mr. B. Thank you. Cold shower is very helpful, says John. Thank you. Anything a nursing mother can take for anxiety and depression? Wow. I don't know. That's a question. I think that some nursing mothers have been on antidepressants, although no, it's not really recommended because it goes into the bloodstream of the infant. Kirsty says, nope, not seeing it. What are you not seeing, Kirsty? So you should talk with your family, your pediatrician about that. There are things like Kava for anxiety or 5-HTP, pharmaceuticals that you might be able to take. But again, if you're nursing, I would definitely check with your pediatrician or your psychiatrist because anything you take is going to cross the blood-brain barrier. So that is kind of a difficult situation to be in when you're having a major depression and you're nursing. My godson's wife went through that, and I guess I'll have to ask her how she dealt with it because she did deal with it in some way. So maybe I'll have that information for you. Maybe one more pun. I don't know. Let me see. The Energizer Bunny was arrested, charged with battery. There was a class trip to the Coca-Cola factory. I hope there's no pop quiz. And this is my favorite, of course. I wondered why the baseball was getting bigger, and then it hit me. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope I was able to get to most of your questions. There's so much to talk about mental illness, depression, anxiety. I should say that my brother suffers from depression. Kate says, thank you for being on YouTube. Love your channel. Thank you, Kate. Recommend it to your friends if you can. And someone mentioned a Patreon page. I'm going to be doing that. I'll let you know when that's done. I guess that's what creative artists use. And Juan Roberts Rosenfeld says, thank you. Kirsty says, thank you so much. Remember, Kirsty, douglasbloch@gmail.com. I will get your email. Andrea says, thank you. Rayudu says, thanks a lot. Appreciate that. A lot of thank you. Gavin is saying, Mumby's saying, thank you so much, Douglas. Please don't forget the group chat. I'll see what I can do. I'm really busy in the next week or two, but send me an email to remind me. But that sounds like a good idea. Thank you again, says April. Yeah, my mother hospitalized 5 times before she died. My brother with depression. My cousin, brilliant man who went to Harvard at the age of 17 and had a major break and has been anxious ever since. Marin says thank you. These are some of my, I guess, my loyal followers on the channel. It's nice to see you responding to me on this live chat. I love getting your comments on my videos. Mr. B says thank you for all the vids and help. This Monday, every Monday, I'm posting these videos around 7 a.m. Pacific time, 7 a.m. The one I'm posting in a couple of days on the 25th is called Can Any Good Come Out of This Depression? And it shows how spirit can even use hard times and disaster to create some good and some benefits. The next 3 videos I'm going to do are one on dysthymia on October 2nd. I'm going to do one on Will These Bouts of Depression Ever End on October 9th, and on October 16th there's going to be one called The Deadly Side Effect of Depression. I know that sounds kind of sensational, but no. There is a side effect of not depression, of antidepressants that is deadly. There was an article about it in the New York Times on September 11th that I'm going to quote at great length. And yeah, so, you know, stay tuned for these videos being released on every Monday. Oh, I forgot to ask people. Oh, Doran, what day do you recommend I do these video chats? It's probably too late. People have left, but maybe the weekend because more people are home then, although Wednesday at 11 a.m. works really good for me. Maybe I'll ask next time if you have a special time that you really think would be best for me to be doing this in terms of maximum, access to viewers. So if you see this, if you missed the live video and you see this on YouTube, just go ahead and put in your recommendations for a time of day. I'm going to be doing these live chats once a week as well as releasing my videos once a week, but I'm not quite sure the day of the week and the time of the day I should do it. So anything you have, let me know. And it's been lovely spending this hour with you. And as we say at the end of my videos, I wish you the best in your mental health recovery. And again, if you watch this video live chat after it's posted, please post any of your comments or questions in the comments section. And again, if you can think of a day that you think would be a good day for me to make this into a ritual so people can expect it every week, I will do so. And we'll see what happens. And right now, hey, the sun came out in Oregon. I'm no longer depressed. Talk to you later.